A woman does not choose you when you kiss her, not when you compliment her hair, not even when she agrees to go on a date. Her choice is made long before that, sometimes in minutes, sometimes in seconds, and the unsettling truth is she could not explain it even if she tried. But her body knows. Her body always knows. There are invisible signals, hidden triggers that ignite a woman's desire long before she even realizes it. These are not words, not compliments, not gifts. They are ancient codes buried in the architecture of her brain that decide in an instant whether you are magnetic or forgettable. Carl Jung said, "The body carries truths the mind has not yet spoken," and neuroscience has now confirmed it. Within 0.22 seconds of seeing you, her amygdala, the fear and desire center of the brain, fires like a lightning strike, deciding whether you are a threat, a protector, or a man worth surrendering to. Her body reacts first. Her pupils widen, her breathing changes, her skin becomes charged with electricity. And here is the shocking part. This reaction happens even if she does not want it to. Freud believed that desire is never born in the conscious mind. It erupts from the id, the raw animal part of the psyche, which means this decision is not moral, not logical, not even personal. It is biological. This is why a woman can say she wants a nice guy, but find herself drawn to someone who disrupts her peace. Her subconscious is scanning for something deeper: emotional strength, unpredictability, danger wrapped in control. Nature once warned, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. And that is what she senses. Not the man who plays safe, but the man who carries just enough chaos to wake up her sleeping instincts. The most fascinating part, she will never be able to explain this to you. Ask her why she feels pulled toward a man, and she will give you a story, but that story is invented by her rational mind after the choice has already been made. You are not about to learn tricks. You're about to learn how to influence that first silent decision without begging, without chasing, without proving a thing. Because the truth is, the man who understands these hidden switches stops competing for her attention and starts bending her attention around him. He becomes the calm center in the storm. The man who does not need to speak loudly because the entire room is already tuned to his frequency. And this is why some men remain burned into her memory for years, while others vanish the moment they leave. Today, you will see why. Not with recycled dating tips, not with cheap tricks, but with something far more dangerous. A psychological mastery over the part of her that she herself does not control. She will not understand why she wants to be with you, but you will know exactly what you did to provoke it. This is the first trigger, the gaze and the calm. Attraction is not born in the noise. It is born in the space you hold. Most men ruin this without realizing it. They rush to fill every moment, their words spilling out, their laughter too loud, their movements too quick, as if they are afraid she will disappear if silence dares to fall between them. But the man who understands this trigger moves differently. He slows the world down. His gaze is unhurried, not aggressive, but anchored like a man who has nowhere else to be. And this is where Jung's shadow enters the room. Your gaze is not just eyes meeting. It is your entire unconscious energy confronting hers. Women feel this. They may not explain it, but they can sense when a man is not hiding from himself. When he is not seeking approval, not covering his insecurity with fake smiles, but simply exists fully, unapologetically. Schopenhauer called this the will to live made visible, a presence that radiates so strongly that others instinctively orbit around it. Imagine this. You are seated across from her. The room is filled with conversation, glasses clinking, a hum of background noise. And yet when you look at her, you do not fidget, you do not rush, you do not look away nervously. You let your gaze settle, not staring her down, but holding her attention just long enough to send one clear message: I see you. This is the moment her mind begins to work against her, because the brain cannot resist completing unfinished patterns. When you hold that calm, she starts imagining what you are thinking, and her imagination is far more powerful than anything you could say out loud. This is the first psychological shift. She moves from analyzing you to imagining you, from testing you to picturing you. And imagination is where desire begins. This is why the calm, anchored man is more magnetic than the overeager one. He is not signaling, please choose me. He is silently saying, I have already chosen myself, and that is enough. And women feel it. They feel it in the nervous flutter in their chest, the sudden awareness of the space between you, the faint quickening of breath. And in that moment, the first spark is lit. In those seconds of silence, the most intense attraction is born. In those seconds of silence, the most intense attraction is born. But here is the paradox. Most men cannot handle this silence. It terrifies them. They think, if I do not speak, she will lose interest. So they rush to fill the void, throwing out jokes, compliments, anything to stop feeling the weight of that empty air. But that emptiness is not your enemy. It is your ally. Modern neuroscience calls this the Zijic effect, the mind's obsession with unfinished moments. When you create a pause on purpose, her brain lights up like a signal flare. Dopamine, the chemical of desire, spikes in her bloodstream. Her mind starts running wild, scrambling to solve the puzzle you left open. What is he thinking? Why did he stop talking? Did I say something wrong? Or is he about to say something I have been waiting to hear? And just like that, you have shifted the power dynamic. She is no longer passively listening. She is actively searching, reading every micro-expression, every flicker in your eyes, every subtle movement of your mouth. Her body begins to mirror yours. Her breathing unconsciously slows to match your calm rhythm. Mirror neurons in her brain fire, syncing her state with yours. This is why masculine calm is so magnetic, because it pulls her nervous system out of chaos into your frame. Imagine this scene. You are sitting across from her in a quiet cafe. She is talking, laughing, filling the space. And then you shift. You slow your breathing. You lower your tone. And then you stop. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you choose to stop. Your gaze stays steady, anchored. You do not flinch. You do not look away. The silence stretches. It grows heavy, but not threatening, like a storm waiting to break. She feels it in her chest. Her pulse quickens. Her smile fades, not in rejection, but in concentration. Her body betrays her. Her pupils dilate. Her lips part slightly. Her breathing changes. Her body leans a fraction closer, a movement so subtle she may not notice it herself. And this is the secret. You do not rush to rescue her from that tension, because tension is the cradle of desire. Anticipation is the fire that keeps it alive. Most men fail here. They panic, fill the space with nervous chatter, throw out a joke, change the subject and break the spell. But the man who understands holds that silence. He lets her mind write the next scene in the story, and what she imagines is far more powerful than anything he could have said aloud. Picture a second scene. You are walking together at night. Streetlights glow faintly. The air is cool and quiet. You stop for a moment. You look at her. You do not speak. The world feels suspended. Cars pass in the distance, but in this small pocket of time, there are only two people alive. You and her. This pause is not empty. It is loaded. It is the moment just before lightning strikes, the breath before a confession, the stillness before a kiss. And when you finally decide to speak, your words land like thunder, because silence carved a space for them to echo in her mind. This is where attraction deepens, not with cleverness, not with endless words, but with space she can feel in her body, space that makes her wonder guess, and lean in closer without knowing why. Your hand brushes hers. Your hand brushes hers softly, almost by accident, and for a moment the entire world pauses. This is trigger 3, subtle touch. The human body is an instrument, and every touch plays a note. Most men crash on the keys, pounding away until all they create is noise. But the man who understands this trigger plays one note, perfectly timed, and lets the sound linger. Science shows that certain areas of the body are wired like ancient tripwires: the inside of the forearm, the lower back, the side of the leg. When touched lightly, they send electric signals to the brain's limbic system, activating the circuits for bonding and arousal. Oxytocin, the hormone of trust, and dopamine, the chemical of anticipation, release together, creating a paradox. She feels safer, yet more on edge. And this only works when the touch feels unforced, like it slipped into reality by chance. Imagine the first scene. You are sitting side by side at a bar. The music hums in the background. You lean in to tell her something. As you do, your fingertips barely graze the inside of her wrist. It is not a grab, not a hold, just enough for her to feel your presence. And then you take it away. You do not look down at your hand. You do not comment on it. You simply keep talking as if nothing happened. And here is where the magic happens. Her mind replays that moment later, over and over. Was that accidental? Did he mean that? Why did it feel different from anyone else's touch? Because it was rare. Scarcity always creates value. Now imagine a second scene, a crowded restaurant. You are both laughing. The waiter brings the bill. Your hand rests lightly on the small of her back as you lean forward to reach the check, just for 1 second, and then gone. Her entire body feels it, not because it was sexual, but because it was deliberate, without being demanding. This is the art most men never learn. Progression. One accidental touch, then silence, then another slightly longer at the perfect moment when her interest is at its peak. Each one becomes an event, a scene she stores in memory, like chapters of a story she cannot stop reading. Contrast this with the man who touches too often on the shoulder, on the knee, on the hand, as if he can force desire through repetition. His touch loses its power because there is no tension, no waiting, no anticipation. The man who understands this trigger knows that one drop of water in the desert feels like a miracle. But the flood drowns the magic, and when the next touch comes, her body does not resist. It remembers, because each touch has been spaced just enough for her to crave the next one. Her breathing slows, her voice softens. Maybe she leans a fraction closer, almost unconsciously. This is not an accident. It is her nervous system synchronizing with yours, responding to the story you are writing on her skin. This is why restraint is more seductive than excess, because it doesn't push, it invites. It lets her feel that she is part of the dance, not an object being pushed across the floor. And when the third, perfectly timed touch comes, it does not just touch her body, it touches her memory. It anchors your presence to that electric, breathless moment, and long after you're gone, she will replay it like a secret she is not ready to confess. And then comes another silent gesture, the gaze that marks territory. And then comes another silent gesture, the gaze that marks territory. Not the predatory stare that invades, not the desperate look that begs. This is different. This is the eyes that choose. Imagine a room full of voices and laughter, people moving between conversations, glasses clinking, music floating in the air. You're not glued to her. You're not the man following her from corner to corner, hovering like a shadow. You are engaged with others, calm, composed, but every so often your eyes find her. A fraction of a second, just long enough to let her feel that out of everyone here, you are choosing her. And then you look away. You disappear back into your world. This is not about staring her down. It is about creating a rhythm, vanishing and returning, so that every time your eyes meet, it feels like a private signal. Enzi once wrote, "He who has a why can bear almost any how." In that moment, you become her why. Your selective gaze gives meaning to her presence in the room. And here is the secret. This intermittent contact is addictive because her brain begins to anticipate it. The moment she looks up and you are not looking, she waits for it to happen again. And when it does, the small spark in her chest grows warmer. Add a faint smile, a barely perceptible lift of the eyebrow, a slight tilt of the head, as if sharing a secret no one else can read. And now the entire room disappears. It does not matter how many people are talking, how many distractions buzz around. There are only two of you, linked by an invisible thread that tightens every time your eyes collide. This is not just eye contact, it is an invitation wrapped in mystery. Your gaze says, "I see you. I'm not rushing toward you, but you are the only one here who matters." This is what makes her lean in, not physically yet, but emotionally, because women are not just drawn to men who see them. They are drawn to men who choose them selectively, as if no one else qualifies. And the beauty of this trigger, you are not performing. You are not trying to impress. You are simply deciding and letting her feel the gravity of that decision every time your eyes meet. Knowing when to leave is as magnetic as any approach. Knowing when to leave is as magnetic as any approach. Most men stay too long. They ride the moment until the energy collapses, until the spark dims, until the magic turns into ordinary chatter. But the man who understands this trigger walks away at the peak. Picture the scene. Laughter is flowing. The eye contact is locked. The atmosphere is charged like a storm before rain. And just when it feels like the night could last forever, you stand. Not abruptly, not nervously, but with the calm of a man who knows the moment is already his. You say something simple, light, but unforgettable. "I should go, but this was one of the best moments I've had in a long time." Then you let it hang in the air. No excuses, no justification, just a subtle smile, and you leave. And here is the science behind why this works. The Zeigarnik effect. The human mind cannot stand unfinished endings. When you leave, while her energy is still at its highest, you freeze the memory at its most intense point. You lock the moment in amber so that when she thinks of you later, she doesn't remember the conversation fading. She remembers the electricity still buzzing in her chest. This is what creates the psychological hook. It is not neediness. It is not manipulation. It is strategy, because now her own body will demand to finish the story you left open. She will replay your last words in her head. She will feel that absence as tension, and that tension will build until she finds a way to see you again. The man who masters this no longer begs for another chance. He no longer waits for permission. He creates the gravity that pulls her back into his orbit. And that is why the exit is not the end of the interaction. It is the beginning of the next one. That emptiness is the hook that will make her seek you again. That emptiness is the hook that will make her seek you again. And when she does, it will not be because you chased her, It will be because you chose the perfect moment to disappear, when her energy was at its highest, when she most wanted you to stay. This is the beginning of mastery. She is present, alert, almost glowing, every gesture, every word, holding the entire room in suspension. And then you choose to end it. Not like someone escaping rejection, not like a man who has run out of things to say, but like someone who knows the mark has already been made and that leaving now will make the memory eternal. You leave her with a single line, a line that will echo in her chest. I have to go, but this moment was something I will remember. And then you are gone. No long explanation, no hesitation. You let that sentence vibrate in the air long after you've walked away. Why does this burn so deeply into her memory? Because the brain hates incomplete endings. Neuroscience calls this the Zigzag effect. Unfinished moments haunt us longer because the brain keeps them open, circling them, replaying them until it finds closure. By leaving at the peak of the interaction, you freeze the memory at its most intense point. The amygdala, the emotional alarm system, and hippocampus, the memory architect, work together to burn it into long-term storage. That night, she lies awake, and the scene replays uninvited. The last look you gave her, the pause before you spoke, the words themselves. I will remember this, playing like a loop, and her body remembers too. Her pulse quickens. Her chest tightens as if you just left the room again. When she sees you next, you do not start over. You meet her at the exact emotional height where you left her, as if time itself froze between those two meetings. This is what separates the ordinary man from the unforgettable one. He is no longer reacting to her world. He is shaping it, no longer asking for permission, no longer seeking approval. He becomes the architect of the interaction, the man who decides when it begins, when it ends, and what remains unspoken. This is masculine sovereignty. It is not loud, it is not controlling, it is calm, measured, undeniable. You are no longer the boy chasing validation with nervous jokes. You are the man who holds the frame, sets the rhythm, and lets her lean into your world. And this calm power is irresistible because it signals that your value does not depend on her reaction. It comes from within. It is suggestion, not invasion. It is mystery, not exhibition. If you use these triggers just to impress, to feed your ego, you will lose their essence. But if you use them to connect, to awaken curiosity, to build trust, to create space where she feels safe yet alive, you will never have to chase her again. She will seek you out. She will find excuses to be where you are. She will replay the story you started writing in her mind, wanting to see how it ends. Because what you awaken in her is no longer just attraction, it is obsession wrapped in mystery. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you master these triggers, you stop thinking like the man who begs and start thinking like the man who chooses. And slowly, your very presence begins to dye her thoughts with your color. So I leave you with this. Which of these triggers have you already used? Perhaps by accident, without even knowing what you were doing. When was the last time you felt like you were playing with fire, but only now understand what flame you were truly lighting? Because now you know. Fire, when mastered, does not merely give light. It leaves marks. It leaves scars she will carry long after the night has ended, long after the words have faded. And that is the mark of the unforgettable man. The one who does not just pass through her life, but becomes a story she cannot stop telling herself. If this message struck a chord with you, do not let it stay just a passing thought. Subscribe, not for more noise, but for more knowledge like this. Every video here is crafted to give you what no one else dares to tell you, the hidden psychology, the forbidden codes that turn confusion into clarity and hesitation into power. Leave a comment below. Which of these triggers spoke to you the most? Which one are you ready to master first? Because the conversation does not end here.